So today I wanted to share with you all the concept of Hannya. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Aliza and I am a psychic medium and energy worker from Japan, and I specialize in Japanese culture. So Hannyas are known as very powerful protective charms. Just having it around you is known to be very, very protective. A lot of people also get pictures of the Hannya tattooed on their body. So let's really dive into the history of Hannya and what exactly it is. So Hannya is a form of Oni. Oni in Japanese mean either demon or ogre. In this case, the Hannya is a demon. But has the Hannya always been a demon, or was it something else? And the answer is, it actually used to be a human. And to be specific, it is a human woman. So the story behind Hannya is that a jealous woman who is full of anger, hatred, and sorrow turn themselves into an Oni, which becomes a Hannya. There are actually 3 different stages of becoming a Hannya. There's the first stage called Namanari. Namanari is basically like the beginning stages of transforming into a demon. This is where the woman is still part human and it's just transforming, so there is definitely still hope for them to turn back into a human. And then the second stage is Chunari. Chunari is the middle stage, where they're just really halfway there becoming a full-fledged Oni. And the third stage, which is like the very top level, is Honnari. Honnari is the stage where they have become a full-fledged demon and there is no way to turn back, and the rage and hatred and sorrow has completely consumed them and they have become a true Hannya. And they usually say that they're just so vengeful and they possess magical powers, and they basically use black magic to curse people and also to even kill them. Okay, so quite scary stuff. So let's talk about but what turns these women to become so vengeful? So a lot of the folklore talks about women who have been wronged by men. A lot of the times it's like a woman longing for a man and the man doesn't love her back. Or sometimes they are in a relationship but the man finds somebody else and leaves the woman, and the woman is just so enraged. Or maybe the woman is actually a mistress of somebody who's already married, and then the guy doesn't leave his wife and leaves the mistress, and then she just goes crazy, and then she turns to black magic and malicious deeds, and then she turns herself into a Hannya. So now it's like, why in the world do Japanese people think of the Hannya to be something protective then, right? Wouldn't they want to stay away from it? So actually, yes, you would want to stay away from it, and that's exactly the reason why people will use it as a protection charm. So what's really interesting about Japanese culture is that a lot of the things that people actually fear, and they also understand how powerful and lethal and unmerciful these things could be, they actually venerate it. They venerate these gods or supernatural beings with these powers. So in exchange for our loyalty, we receive protection from these powerful supernatural beings. So now that you know these backstory about how a person becomes a Hannya, you would quite understand why it is used as a protection charm and why people will want to stay away from that kind of energy. Because once you cross a Hannya, they are very vengeful, they are unmerciful, they will not forgive you, they will literally chase you till the end of earth, even after death. So you really just don't want to mess with that kind of energy. Another interesting fact about Hannyas are that there are different colored masks available out there, and the different colors actually represent the different classes of the women who turn into Hannya. What I mean by classes is that, so for example,
so the white mask represents a woman from the upper class and is considered to be a classy woman who has turned into a Hannya. The black mask represents somebody from a lower class who has to do a lot of physical labor and be out in the sun, hence her skin is a bit darker than the upper class people. And lastly, the red mask is a mask that represents somebody or a woman who has become completely enraged by anger.
And lastly, I would like to also share the reason behind the masks are called Hannya. So the word Hannya actually doesn't mean like evil woman or demon spirit or anything like that. So it's actually named after a monk named Hannya. And this specific monk was trying to carve this specific kind of mask. And he was trying really, really hard to portray this anger yet sorrow. And he meditated and he hoped that he would get some inspiration from the heavens. And boom, one day it happened and he was able to carve this beautiful mask that portrays the Oni woman. And what's really interesting about this kind of facial features of the Hannya mask is that it really has this beauty of sorrow and anger all incorporated into the face. The eyes, it looks like it almost could start crying. And then the bottom part is just enraged. So it has this beautiful, I guess, artistic blend of it. And this is what perfection is when it comes to making the Hannya come to life. So this is why this kind of mask and this kind of demon is named after Hannya, the monk. So the story of Hannya, how a human can actually transform itself into a malicious demon, is just very fascinating and also so deep. Especially because I believe that it's true. At an energetic level, you actually can. If you really allow hatred, vengeance, anger, all of that consume you, it does take you away from humanity. And just like the concept of namanari, chunari, honnari, first stages of transforming into something like that, it's easier for you to come back. But then in the middle stages, it just gets a little bit harder. And then once you allow everything, this rage and hatred to consume you, then turning back is much, much harder. You really lose yourself. I believe the concept of Hannya is probably something very symbolic and metaphorical. And sometimes when you really let those kind of negative emotions really take over, it can really manifest. And you're emanating something so vicious like that, then perhaps some people can really view you as something very similar to the Hannya. Maybe physically, you can even start looking like something that's quite inhumane as well. So again, I just feel like there is definitely a very important moral to the story. And I also wanted to reiterate the sadness that is actually part of the Hannya story. Like I said, if you just look at the eyes, it's quite sorrowful, which really makes us think of, I'm sure you guys know of the quote, hurt people hurt people. So perhaps the Hannya is just vicious and is just in this negative state of mind because of the hurt she has experienced in her heart. She's basically heartbroken. And it just reminds us that we should never give away our power to anybody, especially to the point where we would actually lose ourselves. And I also wanted to squeeze in this really good quote from a Japanese movie. Humans, just with the beat of their hearts, the way they feel inside of their heart, they can turn either into an Oni, which is a demon, or the Buddha. So I hope you enjoyed this video about the Hannya and learned a little bit more about my culture as well. Please leave some comments below with any questions that you have and subscribe to my channel if you would like to learn more about Japanese esotericism. Bye!